What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please make sure you follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today we have to head back to New Venezuela, formerly known as New York City, to report on the shenanigans and nonsense going on with the illegal immigrant population that's committing crime in the city, making the city unlivable. And as you can see here, we have a 13-year-old boy engaged in a stabbing. But before we get too deep into that, what I want to do first is address some people's concern who are saying that it looks like Trump and Holman, particularly Trump, is changing up his message as it pertains to mass deportation, and that now he only wants to go after the criminal element of the illegal immigrant population and not those who have deportation orders on them and just shouldn't be here flat out to begin with. That is the farthest thing from the truth. Holman has spoken out against that numerous times over, stating that just because we're going after the criminal element first doesn't mean that we're not coming after you, all of you who have these deportation orders on you. We're coming after you too. But what people have to understand is that as a point of strategy, when you have CNN, MSNBC, and the entire DNC propaganda wing on your back, as far as the mainstream media is concerned, where they're trying to spin every little thing you say and do, you have to play this properly. And how you play it properly is by doing the obvious thing and going after the criminal element first, because there is no logical defense in keeping them here. You get what I'm saying? But then after that, once you move forward and you're snatching up all these criminals, you then in the process are grabbing up everybody else as well who have deportation orders and are here unlawfully because the deportation order is on your back. And in deporting you, nothing is being done incorrectly. Nothing is being done wrong that is against the law. You follow what I'm saying? But as a point of strategy, logically, you go after the criminal element first. You go after the most dangerous aspect of the illegal immigrant population first, because there is no logical defense to keep them here. But as we're going to see here, I want to go through the CNN clip very quickly. Just look at the spin job that continuously goes on and that Trump has to fight against. Listen to this nonsense right here before we get back into this article.
I want to be bringing back waterboarding. I don't want to be a country that tortures people, especially if we're the kind of country that's going to be using the military against our own citizens.
Well, wait,
this kind of thing concerns me.
What do you mean use against our own citizens?
I'm talking about
you
sending...
said blue states behave. What do you mean? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about sending the military into blue states to make them behave. Getting Gavin Newsom under control, getting J.P. Pritzker under control.
What are you talking about?
Can you believe that this is news? This is supposed to be news. She's literally just making up nonsense and it flies. It just flies. I could end it here. I'm going to let it play a little bit more, but this is apparently news. This DNN, Democrat News Network, unbelievable.
Well, sitting into the state capitol to commandeer the state government?
I mean, I hope not, but he's definitely talked about that. I don't know why you're acting like you've never heard
the military to suppress, in the Black Lives Matter era, those protests in the street.
Who talking about Black Lives Matter in 2024? Do you see what I'm talking about? Going back to a point of strategy and why you have to play this mass deportation thing properly. You have to play it properly because these people are getting up here just saying anything.
That's actually...
I just make sure I understand your position, that you believe Donald Trump is going to use the military to set up effectively like coups in state capitals of states that he didn't win?
I think you're taking it a step or two.
No, she said
far.
Make blue states behave, and she also said round up immigrants. That's not true. It's deport illegal immigrants.
Scott,
I think you just need to be a little
I don't know why you're acting. No.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Hold on. I mean, look. I think you're right. Let's be precise. Trump has wanted to use the military to do things domestically that actually the military is not allowed to do. I think that's the point that she's making.
Abby Phillips is so garbage and a liar.
Like what?
Like deport illegal immigrants. That is actually not a function of the military.
The military can absolutely be used to work with local officials to provide military resources, but working with other parts of the federal government and local officials. We already send the National Guard to the border.
Not against the will of the local officials or the will of the state government. We have a federalist government here.
The military is not
That's enough. We're going to end it here. I can keep going, but it's redundant and stupid listening to this at this point. There's maybe about like 2 minutes left of this, but I can't listen to this idiocy. Donald Trump never said that the military is going to be roaming the street, kicking in doors. They've been very clear that they're using the military to assist them with logistical purposes, right? They've been very clear on that because, yes, it is against the law to have the U.S. military just marching down the street with their guns drawn, kicking doors in and snatching people out of their homes, even if they are illegal immigrants. They can't operate on American soil like that, just flippantly. But anyways, let's keep it moving. And let's get back to the story at hand right here, right? Because there's a greater purpose and reason for why I'm bringing this up also. We're going to come back to Tom Homan as it pertains to unaccompanied minors at the border, right? But this article reads as such. The title reads, Migrant Boy 13 and Masked Buddies Stab Man with Brass Knuckles in Times Square Beatdown, all because he wouldn't take their photos. This is pure insanity. A 13-year-old migrant boy and 3 masked buddies stabbed a man in a brass knuckle beatdown near Times Square on Sunday, all because he wouldn't take their photo, cops and sources said. The Ecuadorian teen and his pals approached the 23-year-old victim around 9 p.m. at West 40th Street and 7th Avenue and asked him to snap their picture, police and sources said. When the pedestrians said no, the crew ganged up on him, socking him in the face and stabbing him in the back and leg with a brass knuckle knife, authorities said. And this is the weapon right here. Jeez. And this is the boy here getting arrested, obviously, because he's a minor. He's 13 years old. They're not going to show his face. They're still going to keep him protected. But I digress. Let's carry on with the story here. They also tried to grab his cell phone, but were unsuccessful. Cops said the suspects ran off, but cops managed to nab the young teen after searching the area with the victim. The youngster, whose last known address is the notoriously violence-ridden Roosevelt Hotel, was charged with second-degree robbery, cops and sources said. The victim refused medical attention after the violent encounter with the stab wounds, only superficial, authorities and police said. So it looks like, fortunately for him, the stab wounds weren't that deep. The 3 suspects who are still on the loose were each last seen wearing all black and black face mask, sources said. The arrested teen, get this, was previously busted this past October 26th in connection to a chain snatching on board a northbound F train at McDonald Avenue and Avenue X in Brooklyn, law enforcement sources said. So now let's really get into why I'm bringing this up, because I'm not talking about necessarily just to talk about it, though this is good to continuously report on so people know what's going on, and which is something that I would definitely keep doing as I've done in the past. This isn't new for me, but I most importantly want to bring up the fact that as it pertains to unaccompanied minors, they're just allowed a free pass into the country. We have seen, I think, with the Biden administration, maybe technically under the Trump administration, honestly. But with the Biden administration, we've seen an enormous amount of unaccompanied minors just literally be dropped at the U.S. border, to which our American law actually states that we have to bring them in. But that has to change, and it's looking like moving forward, it will be changed. And to explain that more, I want to get into this News Nation clip here with Tom Homan. So let's jump into this right now.
One of the pictures that moves both sides of this issue are when you see the kids that show up, often unaccompanied, or somebody's pretending that they're unaccompanied. This was a problem under the Trump administration, as it is during the Biden administration. They were both in the very high 80s of the percentages of people, of these kids who would come and be released with a sponsor. Biden low 80s, Trump high 80s. The Flores settlement makes it difficult to change this, which is a big reason that the number was as high or higher under Trump. How do you deal with that? Because it is a big enticement to send kids here that they will get released in the country.
Well, look, I think, Congress can fix it by simply changing the TVPRA, the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, which had a good intention. And what that says is when a child comes across the border alone or with the help of a cartel, we got to ascertain they're a victim of trafficking. And if they are, they get special rights, and it takes years to go through those cases in most cases. However, they could change that law to make it real simple. If you're a child from Mexico that comes across the border, or Canada, and you're ascertained not to be a victim of trafficking, you just come into the country illegally, illegal entry, and you're not a victim of trafficking, children from Mexico and Canada can be immediately removed. But you're from any other country, you get a whole new process that takes years, and they found that loophole, they're taking advantage of it. So I think Congress could easily fix that by treating children from all over the world the same as we treat children from Mexico. That will stop the flow. As far as the Florida settlement agreement for the family units, let us detain families in a non-jail setting, an open-air campus setting, like we did under the Obama administration. It took about 40 days for them to see a judge and have the case heard, and of course 90% lost. We sent them home, and guess what? The family stopped coming. It wasn't until the Ninth Circuit said, no, you can only hold them for 20 days, which isn't enough time to see a judge.
Well, will you
as soon
litigate
as that decision got to
will
the
you
cartels,
take that? Will you litigate
Absolutely.
Flores to the Supreme Court? Because Congress, I don't think Congress is going to act on this. I think they're going to be distracted by all these investigations and things that are almost certain to ramp up again. I don't want you to comment on that. I want to keep you on your own job. But Tom, I just wanted to have you on as a make good on the commitment that I will talk to you on this show about what's going on. You're not even in office yet. Whenever you want, because the issue matters so much to the audience. So you are welcome here, and I'm welcome personally all the time too. You tell me when to come, I'll be there.
So there was a lot that was stated there, but just to keep things simple, at the end of the day, we have these laws on the books that are simply allowing unaccompanied minors to just get a free pass, and they're not even being trafficked. And so this is a loophole that has been exploited severely. And the reality is this: though you might have a bleeding heart for children, as we all do, right? Because a lot of us have kids, and that's just a natural, just human nature, right? The reality is this: a lot of these kids, they're coming over here unaccompanied, and they're being recruited by gangs, if not sent by gangs, and they're being used to commit crime here in the United States. We don't know what's really going on with that 13-year-old boy that we talked about earlier, but it's not uncommon for gangs to use these children to commit crimes because, as you saw, his face was blurred out legally. You can't show his face because he's 13 years old. He's not an adult. There's a lot that goes into just allowing these so-called unaccompanied minors into the country unchecked. And the reality is this: just like if a random child popped up at your doorstep, are you letting them in your house? No, you're not doing that. You wait right here on my doorstep. Let me lock the door, and I'm going to call the police, or in this case, ICE, and they're going to deal with you and take you away and send you back home where you belong, which is precisely what should be happening. When they come over here unaccompanied, they need to be sent back home. And with all that being said, that does it for today's show. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. And also don't forget to check out my latest live stream that aired earlier this morning, in which I discuss how Eric Adams is standing firm on working with Trump and Holman and does not care if you plan on canceling. And if you want to watch that video, you can click the link right here. It's right here on my left and I believe to your right. So with all that being said, thank you guys for joining me. Peace and have a great afternoon.